Boom! So this came in about a month ago or so, something like that, and I wanted to show it to you guys because pretty much, I guess you can see it as a symbol of if someone like myself can do it, if someone like myself can be able to build an audience and just talk about something that I'm passionate about, then any of you guys out there who have an aspiration or a dream, who want to follow your passion, you too can follow your dream and earn this cheap piece of plastic. In all seriousness though, I do want to say thank you for all of you guys who have subscribed, and pretty much for the 5 of you who actually watch all of my videos, just want to say that this one is for me. I'm gonna keep it right over here for you guys. In other news, February was a pretty good month with content, with movies and such. You had, let's see, a movie that a studio deemed was too smart for their own audience. You had a superhero who pretty much changed the world, and now we have world peace. And even a rabbit who was ticking off people. A rabbit. If you missed the first one, pretty much this show just looks back at like everything from the previous month, because I don't really make a video on everything that I watch, but I watch a lot of things, spend a lot of money, a lot of hours, just trying to find something that I can recommend to you guys. So I cover them from my least favorite to what I personally deem the must-watches of the month. But honestly, you know, just because I don't like something doesn't mean you might not. You know, maybe you haven't heard of some of these movies, and if I can bring it to your radar, regardless of me, you know, not thinking it's the best thing in the world, maybe you watch it, it hits you on a personal level, you love it, it becomes your favorite movie of all time, and your life gets changed. However, it may not be this first one. This one is pretty much Helen Mirren going emo for like 90 minutes. I am of the belief that the Citizen Kane of haunted house movies goes to Monster House. There's nothing that's going to beat that, right? And it's not that this one fails. It's that there's a difference between you seeing like a kid mess up and you going like, ha, that kid messed up. Then there's a difference between that kid being your kid and then you feel extra disappointed. Now, I don't have children, but I did follow these two guys who are actually brothers, and they made a little movie called Predestination that I really loved. I thought it was a pretty good movie. It was actually one of the first movies that I made a video on where I started explaining things. So that's kind of like where my explanation fandom started coming in. So for those of you who keep saying that I'm jumping on a trend, oh, I got videos dating it. But it's because of that movie that I looked at this one and went, oh, it's coming out in February. It's not just that it's a bad like haunted house movie, it's the fact that I see so much potential in these dudes, and it sucks that this one was so bad. It does things that don't even make sense, the way that the ghosts interact with the people. There's a point where the ghosts try to haunt a little ginger kid because they want to get his soul. Y'all know that don't make sense. I can't really say that I'm going to remember it, but if it does put Predestination on your radar, then at least there's that. Because the only supernatural thing about this movie is the fact that Helen Mirren still looks dope. This is the first one I had ever seen, like not just in theaters. This is the first 50 Shades movie I went to go see, and it was everything that I wanted it to be. Like, no one told me that these guys act. Like, I know their acting was bad, but I didn't know that they acted like those standby video game characters that are just waiting for you to interact with them. It's like a Sims world, but controlled by horny middle-aged women. I've never thought about bringing Febreze to a screening, except for this one where I came to disinfect the seats. But if I'm being honest, I think it's inspirational that something that at one point was a fan fiction thing from Twilight created its own fandom, had its own franchise, and made over $1 billion. That means you should not doubt whatever crazy idea you have. I'm a huge fan of Wallace and Gromit. I love Chicken Run. I rented that like 10.5 times when it was at Blockbuster. I don't know why I don't like this movie. There was, maybe I'm old now. Maybe it was the fact that I still have the Croods fresh in my mind, and this is like covering the same things, but not as good as DreamWorks did it with their movie. Maybe it was the pacing. There was like moments where it feels like a Big Bang Theory type thing, like someone says a joke. They don't cut to the next thing. I wanted to like it. I wanted it to be good, but, you know, I literally left not having anything to say about it, and that's why I put it in a monthly wrap-up video and not make an individual thing about everything. This one right here is based off of the New York Times bestseller, The Bible. There's a thing called counter-marketing, so when they release this against Black Panther, they're pretty much going, you know, maybe some people don't want to see Black Panther, and they want to see the Christian alternative that they deemed the first superhero. There's also a thing called being smart and not releasing yourself. not releasing your movie against the biggest movie of the year. I mean, they got Samson to look pretty strong. He looked pretty big. Delilah was, I guess, as hot as she's supposed to be in the Bible, but the fight sequences, the way that they shot the slow-mo, the fact that they went on videoblocks.com and got like 240p drone footage, none of that made any sense. But I will say that it's not the worst Pure Flix movie that's out there, but that's not really saying much. This is a little Netflix, I can't say it's like, I mean, it's a romantic movie. It's not really comedic other than when it does weird things. I had searched this one up and a lot of people were complaining about it, saying that the characters didn't make any sense and yada, yada, yada. And I watched it and I'm like, all right, it's a couple, they get together, they're about to get married, and then the main actress, she ends up with cancer and it becomes really sad. And I didn't really understand why people were hating on it. As you can see, though, it is low on my list because I didn't realize that the story was about this chick auditioning other chicks so that when she dies, her man's got a woman. Gugu was making really random weird decisions in the Cloverfield movie, but that one had a paradox. This one has no excuse. This one is easily the best looking film that was released in February. So if you're one of those, freaking deacon fans of cinematography, then you will utterly adore this movie. Story-wise is, oh man. Obviously you're going to think about Eyes Wide Shut whenever you see sex cultish stuff, but pretty much in this one you're following a writer who joins her ex back in an Italian mansion and starts playing this really weird game, and it's one of those movies that if you haven't heard about, now you know about it. Check it out. It's super weird. It'll make a list by the end of the year for me in one of the videos that I'll be making, but yeah, now you're aware of a movie called Compulsion. This is one of the best worst movies of the year. Now, it's not my number one, which if you saw a video I made earlier, it's not that one. This one, however, is... You ever, those urinal fresh cakes that they have? Those ones that you, enter in the bathroom and they kind of entice... No? Well, to me, this is one of those movies that, you can't look away from. It's bad, but you enjoy it. It's covering this truly gender fluid being named A, who pops up in different people's bodies every day. A ends up falling in love with this teenager who now ends up dating A, and she's pretty much dating a new person every day. It is fantastic. Just to leave you with this, my favorite part of the movie was when she first realizes that this being named A is going into different bodies. It goes into her boyfriend and she goes, wait a minute. You had my boyfriend in a trance and you kissed me without my consent. Then she proceeds to pretty much smash every different dude that A goes into, without them getting consent that their bodies are being used. Awesome-tacular. I know the movie's not that great. Obviously, I'm the biggest Cloverfield fan. Did a whole video on it. I'm hoping a lot of big things for Overlord. It's clear this movie was dumped. I mean, it's on Netflix. Everyone saw it. You know what it is. This is a little indie haunted house horror film that I thought was better than Winchester. It mixed in some elements of Crimson Peak. They had a couple of Game of Thrones actors in there. I like the ambiance that they captured in the house. I thought the lead actress was good. It's on VOD. If you're interested, there you go. Nah. This is the one that's so bad it's good. Now, I made a video saying that this is the best worst movie of the year, and obviously it's early, and trust me, I made a video last year saying this is my favorite movie of the year. If a better one comes out, you can change titles on YouTube. I will admit that I was wrong, and we will all be blessed with an even better movie than this one, but I'm telling you right now, when I usually say things like that, I honestly mean it. And this movie is gold. I understand that it's based off of a real story, and no one's bashing the real story because those guys are heroes. And now they're heroes to me cinematically because they made one of the funniest movies of the year that I adored.
Come on. Oh!
This is an actual scene from the movie. I'm cool with Dan Stevens. He could gladly be my guest at my house at any point, but I know a lot of people have felt that he's oversaturated himself in a bunch of movies, and I don't think this one will really help, but this is pretty much one of those scenarios where everyone knows this. If you're in a relationship and for whatever reason the two of you decide that you're going to give each other permission to see other people, it ain't gonna end well. The ending of this movie has Dan Stevens turning into a crazy dude just so you can side with Rebecca Ho's side. I wasn't a big fan of that. I don't really like the way that the movie ends up. It's a well-told story, but you know what? Actually, I like it less and less the more that I think about how they tried focusing on Rebecca's character and thinking that, like, what she was doing was correct and she was, I give it 2 Dan Stevens spits out of 5. Now look, I am a sucker for fantasy, romance movies. I will admit that. Maybe that's why I like this movie. I'm not saying that it's like one of the best movies out there. It's that Netflix original movie about Adam Devine, who I think is pretty much Jack Black Jr. He ends up time traveling in order to, continuously go back to a specific night where he met a girl and try different things so that he can end up marrying her. It's not the best movie out there, but I will say, you know what? I'm not the biggest, I think his name is King Bach. I'm not the biggest fan of his Vines and stuff that he has on YouTube, but I'll give it to him. He's making a better transition than other Vine stars are making into actual acting. And, I like the premise of it. And my inner female really liked the ending. I don't know what else to tell you. Dave Chappelle is the better comedian. Yeah, some people will disagree. That's fine. It's completely cool. I think for this one in particular, Bo Burnham directed this stand-up, which I think is really cool because not a lot of people really look at that when it comes to stand-up. The lighting, the way that the camera shifts around, the way that they zoom in, because that adds a lot of things. When camera zooms in, it shows emphasis to what a person is saying. And I thought it was done really well in this one. I stand because it's already been a month. Again, when I say something, I truly mean it. This is one of the best creature designs that's out there. I really liked it. This Loki deer-looking crazy thing. I thought it was pretty dope. I know that a lot of people feel the same way I do, that the lesson that's learned makes absolutely no sense when you realize why he's depressed in the beginning. And then what happens at the end of the movie. I still think it's got a cool ambiance. It is the same, stuck in cabin in the woods and you're stuck in the forest and your friends start doing really, really dumb decisions. But it looked cool. The monster design and that whole sequence where he's running through the forest and then he magically ends up in the convenience store again. It was done well. It's on Netflix. You can check it out. If you have a kid, God bless you. But if you have a kid, this is actually one of those movies that you can watch and enjoy it just as much as they do because unlike Paddington, bless Paddington, Peter's a scumbag. I like the movie because, there's a lot of things that are trying to be meta and breaking the fourth wall, but the way that this one does it is specifically to play with the tropes that a lot of these family movies have. I thought I did a good job with it. And then there's, that whole controversy where soccer moms went completely crazy over the food allergy because Peter Rabbit tries to murder a dude because he knows he has a food allergy. And, all these moms wanted to boycott it. So it came on my radar and I went to go see the movie because of that. I'll say that when you actually watch the movie, the rabbit literally looks into the camera. He looks into the camera in that scene and says, yo, people are going to write us letters. And you soccer moms actually took the bait and made it a controversial thing, which gave the movie more attention. People like myself went to go see it. One, be a better parent if your kids are that influenced that they get moved by a CGI rabbit. I didn't do half the things Bugs Bunny did growing up. And 2, if your kids are actual sponges, if you have little Bobby over here that soaks up everything that they see, then don't ignore all the messages that the movie also has to offer. So for me, these would be the top 5 must-watches for me. Personally, this one, number 5, is probably the most biased one in my opinion because I'm a huge fan of Freaks and Geeks, and this show, it's a Netflix show covering kind of the similar thing because it's kids who are in high school. For me specifically, the fact that it was kids who were really into filmmaking, the way they went about filmmaking, the whole aspect of this single mother trying to raise her kid, the trips to Blockbuster, the thing that happens in episode 8, if you've seen it. I don't know. For me, I'll say out of these top 5, this is my own personal bias one. I'll say some people may not like it, but I understand why it works for me. It's a Netflix show. It's pretty short. I dug it, so I recommend it, but I am curious to know what you guys think about it. The best Frito-Lay joke that's ever been told in cinema. I thought this movie was cleverly done. There's a lot of things that you don't expect a comedy to do with its cinematography, with its sound design, with a lot of different things that, as film nerds pay attention to. But I also thought it was a funny movie. It has moments where they drag a joke out. I was not a big fan of the, I won't spoil it, but the cheating joke. I didn't think it was that funny with the payoff. And I also think the ending, when you really look at it, it's funny, but the whole game night thing, when you really think about it, makes no sense. But it's a comedy. And as a comedy, I thought it was pretty funny. It is like when people recommend me, yo, what should we go out and see? This is like the movie that I'm like, yeah, rent it, go out, watch it, replace it with your actual game night. If you know me, I take forever to watch a TV show. Like, I hate filler, and I hate that sometimes it drags, but for whatever reason, this thing was 10 episodes long, 120,000 minutes an episode, and I binged the whole thing in a day. It's a Netflix series about a cop who runs over a kid on a bike by accident, but since his squad is kind of corrupt and they don't want a bunch of problems, they end up creating more problems because they decide to cover it up. And I'll be the first, as I always say it, whatever message or agenda a thing tries to push, I put that to the side and try to see if the storytelling itself can hold up, and I honestly think it does. There are moments within the story towards the end where I felt that all the subtleties that they put throughout the entire show, this one speech that's given was clearly not for the TV show and the jury, but for like the people at home. I wasn't really vibing with that part, but it's such an interesting show because you want the kid to get justice, right? Like, this kid was wronged and you want justice for his family. And then you also have the attorney who's defending them, and she's a complete screw up and you want her to fail. I like the way that the show builds off. It gives you like everything before, during, and after. Like, it really encompasses the entire story. You see things develop. You see these characters grow to either like each other, hate each other, learn things that they didn't know about each other. I thought it had solid performances, and it has my boy Raul Castillo, who I've been saying, I've been mentioning. The next Benicio, put him on your radar. For those who don't know, Black Panther precedes the organization. This is that movie that's like made Star Wars amounts of money. This movie is so big, it already won the Oscar in 2019 for the best movie of the decade. This movie was so influential, everyone in Oakland has now received their college diplomas. And I liked it. I am not a person who really roots for movies per se. I like rooting for like filmmakers, and for myself, Ryan Coogler has always been that dude. Like, for me, I've been following this guy since his early Sundance indie days. I've loved everything he does. And I know that some people dismiss these movies, because this one and my number one, as I always say, I don't really believe in lists. I just believe in like these top 5 in whatever mood you're in. This one and the smarter one, they're like hand in hand for me. I know that it's a blockbuster and some people dismiss it, but like I said, Ryan Coogler, and I did a video on this, Ryan Coogler really put some personal things into this movie, and I thought he did a fantastic job with it. And for those curious about Wakanda, Illinois, because everyone kept calling to see if they had vibranium, they don't. I checked. Like I said, Annihilation and Black Panther for me go hand in hand. I know that there are people who say, oh no, there's the blockbuster crowd and then there's the ones who are very intellectual with film and knowledge and all that. Y'all need to get out more. You can like both. They're two sides of very different coins. And for me, Annihilation, I love movies that encourage discourse. I like it when you can watch a movie and regardless of you liking it or not, if it triggers something in you like a memory or you feel impacted by the movie, breaking up these theories, these metaphors, I won't get into spoilers because I have a whole video on it, but I really enjoyed talking about the movie and hearing what other people had to say about this movie. And I'm not the biggest fan of people going out and bashing others because they're like, oh, you didn't like the movie. It's because you didn't get it. You are bro, someone can understand the themes of a movie and still not like the execution of it. It is cool if you did not like this movie. On the flip side, I'm also not a fan of people dismissing a movie and not even trying to get it, like saying that there's nothing to it and bashing others for liking it and thinking they're pretentious. Like, I say you still have to give a movie the benefit of the doubt, right? Like bashing a movie when you didn't understand it is also just as bad as the alternative to it. I think that the themes in it of self-destruction are very powerful, of self-reflection are very powerful, but hands down, no doubt, no matter whether you liked it or not, I think the theme that really resonates with everyone, the big message that it has, is to never sell your film to Paramount because they're going to screw you over and just give it over to Netflix. If you have any recommendations that I missed, definitely let me know down below in the comment sections. Let me know your thoughts on these movies. Follow me on Twitter for my March picks if you want to see them in time before I do the next one for next month. But if you want to get some extra stuff, if you want to go to the after show, get bonus clips, early videos, premium vibranium sent to your door, then go check out the A to Z Show Patreon and get access for less than a Redbox rental price and 3 Dan Stevens Spits.